Good morning. So I'd already done this challenge. It's the first challenge that I'd actually done. The previous one I never got to do. Thanks to Windows 10, my footage got corrupted. So I wanted to come back in here and do it again. My concern, however, now though, is that because the sensitivity is even more borked than it was before, the first time I did this on the first day of the patch, it seemed like my sensitivity was still set to -90. I still had some dead zones. And I did okay. I'm sure my score will be here. I went from like 20,000 up to, or 206,000 up to 108,000 place markers on my first, second, and third attempt. Third attempt was pretty good. First two were pretty garbage. Just not very good. First time flying the airplane. This time I hope to do okay. We'll see. But I'm a little disappointed that I lost the footage of going through it and kind of showing the progression, because this is actually a pretty neat challenge with the light winds, the turning approach, the way you come in, and what they're asking for. What I would like to see a little more of is different aspects of the challenge and some weighted adjustments to the score based on your input method. If you're flying with keyboard and mouse versus HOTAS, or Xbox controller versus joystick, I think each one should have some sort of bearing on your output score, with HOTAS being the least scored because you have the most control opportunity to land smoothly and perfectly, followed by joystick and then controller and then keyboard and mouse. Doesn't mean somebody can't get really good with one of these input methods to score highly, but I think that type of a more weighted approach would be a little more fair across the board, whereas the rest of these aren't exactly going to be quite where we need to be. So ultimately here, I need to trim down. There we go. I'm struggling in a bit of a crosswind here. I see the plane. I'm supposed to be behind it, but the plane's getting blown pretty hard. What I don't know is if there's any aids on, like if the plane's doing anything with the rudder or anything like that to try and even up what's happening here. That I am honestly not certain of and can't really say. It's pretty neat scenery. If this is Nice, then I think I'm on the south of France maybe. Not entirely sure. As I begin my bank, you can see the wind not quite angling the plane as much as it was before, which I think is going to aid my landing coming in head on. The problem I always ran into was that I typically came in a little bit too high or too slow, meaning that I ended up having to bleed off a lot more speed than I otherwise would want to at that juncture of the flight. So I've got the gear down to give me some drag. I need to get a bit sharper on the turn here to line up. We're going to throttle down a little bit, and then I'm going to put flaps to land. Wow, this thing is twitchy with this current sensitivity. So with flaps to land, my speed plummets. I need to throttle back up because I need to not stall, which I'm already too low, you can see, but I tend to float a little bit, so I'm going to try to come in a little lower so I can set down where I need to. I'm going to throttle up a little bit because I'm supposed to land at like 79 knots, so I'm a little under that. I'm sorry, I'm a little over that, and I've got to float a little bit. I'm still coming down. I need to kind of back off on my descent here. I'm going to start slowly throttling back. Cut my throttle. Go. I overflared and landed really hard. So, not great. Let's see what the points say. Ouch. 897. I think that is worse than I did before. My ground roll was better, so I was more centered. My landing precession, the distance from the landing point, I think was worse, and my smoothness was worse. My best was, I think, 190 something. My placement got worse just because everybody's been playing. I don't think I got worse this time, but I didn't exactly do better. So let's jump in and try that one more time. The first time I did this, what I also called out was the fact that while aspects of the system loading are much more improved, why am I reloading? Why can't it just reset the scenario? The area, the map, the airport, the plane, the sounds, it's already in my memory. Why am I reloading everything again? This is just inefficient. This is unnecessary cycles on my SSD pulling data off to stuff it in the memory when it's already there. Why am I going through this? Yes, it's faster, but why can't they just do something like slew to set my geographical position right where they need me to start and then just kick it off again? Just to no end annoys me. Alright, so here we go again. Coming in. Let's trim back down to 8%. Keep my nose down. I gotta be careful of my dead zones on the sticks. That's partly what's keeping me all over the place. Very smooth. All these adjustments that I'm making right now on the plane, all this flying is wind/dead zone. I haven't actually moved a control surface yet. And this is going to be throttle. That was a control surface to try and angle down a bit as I throttle down, because I seem to be climbing quite high. Alright, let's throttle down a little more. Let's put my trim down to 6. Wow, I am really climbing. So let's throttle back farther. I think I've just got too much speed. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been this high. Definitely way above the glide slope. Let's drop the gear to give myself some drag. Coming around a lot better for my alignment. We're going to bleed a ton of speed here in a moment when I go flaps to land. I think we're finally close to the glide slope now. Let's go flaps to land. Let's throttle back up. Now I want to hold my throttle at about 80 to 82 if I can. I'm a bit low now. Okay, let's throttle back up a little bit because I need to gain some more altitude. Back up to 70, and I think I might be able to pull it, but I'm coming down way too fast. Terrible approach. I'm just trying to be smooth now. Okay, we got the speed about right. We're pretty well aligned. Okay, now we gotta start the pull back on the throttles. Ooh, I'm already at stall. This is gonna be bad. This is not gonna be good. Ooh, I think that, yeah, that was, wow. Let's just spin out because that was terrible. I cut my speed way too fast. So ground roll was across the board. My position, I don't think I did any better. Oh, what garbage. So I did great at the landing on the first one, but my approach was kind of wonky. This one, I did great on the approach, but the actual descent to the runway was terrible. I had the right speed, I had everything, and then I cut the throttle a bit too soon thinking I would float a little farther, and I just sort of bonk, I fell down and stalled out. So I need to carry a bit more speed. Third time's a charm. Let's see what happens. Not gonna get high expectations for this. Alright. Alright, I'm going to throttle down to 70. Whoa, I'm going to trim down to 6%. See if I can maintain that. We'll probably come in a little hot and then I'll slow down a little later. see what happens. Actually, as I go too fast, I'm going to start climbing because my flaps are already extended one. So let's see if I can manually keep myself in the downward trend. I'm going to have to throttle back a bit more. Nope, we're starting to gain too much speed. There we go. Pull the throttle back and we start to go down. Overall. Okay. Wow, that was just a dead stick movement that caused me to cycle back up. Okay. Let's try not to be too terrible. I think I'm a little high still, which is fine. It's not the end of the world to be a little high up. We're definitely going a little slower. Seem to be plummeting now. Let's drop the gear and throttle back up to 56. Much better alignment to the runway, I think, this time. Okay, I'm going too fast and too high. I'm gonna need to come down shortly, but I want to maybe keep that as a swooping effect. Let's see if I can angle myself down here. I'm going to drop a ton of speed here in a moment when I do flaps to land, but I'm going to hold off on that for a second to try and keep my speed up for that final flare. Alright, flaps to land, there goes the speed, up goes the altitude, come down a little bit. Okay, we're only a little bit too fast now. Let's drop down to 50%. Pull back, pull back, pull back. Too much flare, too much flare. That was not too bad overall. If I hadn't flared quite as hard due to the dead zone, that might have been a pretty decent one. So I don't think my position improved any. I guess I can't beat my best. I rolled, or was off too much because of the flare. Ground roll, I wasn't too bad on that one, and my smoothness was 222, so not quite my best, but overall you get the point. These are kind of fun challenges. I'd like to see some more aspects put into them, and instead of just straight landing challenges, I'd like to see other aspects, like say a takeoff through bad weather and a short takeoff challenge, maybe a STOL event where you take off short, fly and land short, kind of like one of those natural real events for short takeoff and landing. Maybe some like the Flight Simulator 10 where you have to do some checkpoints, fly through certain gates, under bridges, things like that. There's a lot of different things they can do, so I hope they branch out on their thought processes and what they actually have in place with some of these, because there's a lot of neat things that they can do. But again, I'd like to see some balance to some of the landing challenges, because if I go, I'm at 897,000 with 20,000 points. If I go to the top 10, look at that guy's points. He's crazy way up there. 1.89 million points. That's insane. So the challenges are fun. I wish they would really do a little bit more with them, and I'd like to see a bit more of a curve to the grading scale based on your input method. But overall, they're fun. I like that they have them in there. It kind of changes up the monotony a little bit. Yeah. Good times. I wish I'd captured my first one where I actually did decently, but that last one, third time, was a charm. I did pretty decently compared to the first two attempts. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.